Hey friends, how are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing so well and welcome back to another thrifty video. If you guys don't know me, I am a full-time reseller online. So I resell clothing mostly online on platforms like Poshmark, eBay, Mercari, whatnot, things like that. And so I am very familiar with the reselling space. I'm really familiar with fashion in general and knowing what brands sell well and for good money. I spent a lot of time talking about the best things to find and resell while you're out thrifting, what brands will sell well for you online if you're trying to get into that space. But I think it's also important to know what brands you should definitely be passing and what pieces, at least in my experience, have just been sitting and never selling. Things like that I think is really important to know and really helpful information. So I have a list here of 20 brands that I am going to be avoiding in 2024. And so I am going to share all of those with you. I'm going to put up brand labels on the screen for you guys, of course, and we're going to jump into it. What do you guys say? And then at the end, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on if there's any other brands you would add to this list or if you have any other insights to add. So I want to start off by saying that there's going to be some exceptions to these rules. I have 20 listed brands here, but almost every single brand will have an exception. So like if I were to find any of these brands in a like winter coat parka or a puffer coat or something that's 100% cashmere, those are the sorts of things that would make me give a brand a chance even though I usually don't pick it up. So I want to make that clear off the bat. But with that being said, let's jump into these brands. So the first item I have on here is Gymshark. And again, a lot of this is going to be depending on the cost of goods. If I'm going to have to pay $10 for Gymshark, I'm not picking it up. I have had some Gymshark pieces just sitting. And also, depending on how much you buy them for, my resale prices for Gymshark just hasn't been going well, I would say. Unless I find something in a really cute color or in really excellent condition or new with tags, Gymshark is one of those things that I've been kind of just leaving behind unless I'm picking it up in the bins where my cost of goods is like $1, where I can hardly lose money on it. So Gymshark is one of those things that I'm not going to be paying even $5 for probably, unless I'm finding a really substantial piece, a unique piece. It's just one I'm going to have to pass on this year. Brand number 2 is Nordstrom, which Nordstrom carries brands that are really nice. And some of those brands can do really well. But also I feel like with Nordstrom, we're kind of getting into a situation where it's getting more and more similar to TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And that TJ Maxx and Marshalls may be good deals for finding things for yourself. But if a brand is sold there, the comps for those brands are slowly declining. So with Nordstrom, I feel like we're getting to that place where it's getting a little bit more hard to sell things from Nordstrom for a good amount. Some brands there will still do amazing if they're not oversaturated. But with Nordstrom, the brand itself, I find that things that are labeled literally Nordstrom don't sell for very much money anymore. Again, those exceptions are going to be more substantial pieces and also great fabrics, because I find that great fabrics will transcend labels and also time. But Nordstrom itself, as well as its like in-house brands for like teenagers like BP, I don't find those to be selling very well either. So Nordstrom in general, some of the brands sold at Nordstrom can do really well, but Nordstrom itself, I've been kind of passing on. Number 3, this is a kind of shocking brand, but I have literally went through all of my closet. I've seen what pieces I have had listed for forever, and this one's in the top with just pieces that have been sitting around in my inventory for so long that just aren't selling, and that is Frame. Frame denim, a really expensive brand, and usually it has pretty good comps. I just cannot seem to move my pieces at all. I have Frame jean pieces, I have Frame tops, and maybe just my tops are the things that I shouldn't be picking up from Frame, but I have only sold, I think, one Frame piece in the last year, and it's because it was 100% cashmere. So I'm having a struggle of a time with Frame. Let me know if you guys are having the same kind of time, but Frame is one I'm going to be definitely more selective with, but again, we always have those exceptions. So I want people to be hearing that there are exceptions to these rules. This is not a hard and fast rule, but rather more of a generalized, these are brands that I'm going to be very, very selective with if I ever will pick up something from them in the future. Now, number 4 is Champion. And I used to be a Champion girly where I would find this in the bins and I would pick it up, but I haven't been selling a lot of my Champion stuff, which is a little disheartening because it's pretty easy for me to find, especially in my Goodwill outlet. But Champion is a good brand to be selling on places like Whatnot where you're doing live auction style. You're not going to be making as much money per item, but it will still move in my opinion. But Champion, if I'm paying $5 for it, is probably not worth it. So that's another like maybe in the bins kind of situation, but usually not, unless it's maybe a reverse weave or, you know, like a really cool vintage piece. It's probably going to be a no for me this year. Number 5 is Splendid, which I really like Splendid normally. Like, Splendid is expensive as well, but the resell, it is so hard to sell anything from Splendid. I have been sitting on a piece I got for like $1 for maybe 2 or 3 years now. I just cannot move it. Like, I have seen not very great comps coming through the waterway. I just feel like it's one of those brands that I have passed on the last like 4 times I found it at my Goodwill, just because I know it's not going to sell, or it's not going to sell quickly, if ever. So that's another one I'm much more selective with. Number 6 is White House Black Market, which is, again, an expensive brand. And that's why I'm trying to highlight some brands that normally people will tell you, yeah, that's a great brand, you should pick it up. Or if you're just starting reselling, you might think, because this is a good brand for me to buy for myself at the mall, or it's expensive for me to buy, then it's a good brand to pick up. And that's not always the case. That in White House Black Market, that's a great example. I have picked up maybe 2 items that are new with tags that I have maybe sold one of, and I've found a few other things. I find them in the bins quite frequently. It's more of a like business, casual business style clothing brand, and it is in the mall, but I just cannot move it. And so I'm only picking up things if they're new with tags, and even then they won't sell for a ton of money. So it's one of those things that I am definitely trying to be selective with and probably not pick up at all this coming year. Item number 7 is Hudson Jeans. Now, there are, again, of course, exceptions. I literally picked up a pair of Hudson Jeans this week, like 2 days ago. But those ones were like a waxed leather look jean, and so they were a little bit more cool, but also just like unique looking. And that's, again, something that's gonna help tie in with, you know, what an exception might be. But Hudson Jeans, especially ones that are older, that have the older tag, they just aren't moving. And so those are some jeans I'm going to be a lot more selective with in the future. And there's a couple other jean brands kind of in that same tier where they're not necessarily cheap when you buy them even firsthand, but the resale value isn't really there. Brand number 8 is Columbia. I have in the past thought Columbia was a really good brand and one that would sell really well. I have had pretty poor luck at reselling Columbia, especially, you know, everybody I knew growing up wanted one of those little fleece Columbia zip-up jackets. Now that I'm older, I realize that they're not that expensive, but even so, like, my mind growing up was like, oh, Columbia, that's expensive. So some of their pieces are nice and some of them will sell for good money, but majority of the pieces are probably not worth picking up or paying up for. If I find some in the bins, even today, I went to the bins earlier today and I left like 5 different Columbia zip-up jackets just because I know they're not going to make that much money for me. So that's another great example of a brand that, you know, I thought growing up that would be a good brand to resell, but it's not necessarily, for me at least. Brand number 9 is a brand that I used to love picking up to resell, and that is Lulus. I have had bad luck recently trying to sell my Lulus pieces. I did sell one piece lately that was new with tags for $50, which is a great sale. I would love to keep selling my Lulus pieces for that much. But on the whole, I have so much inventory from Lulus, like all these dresses that I have sitting. And maybe since we're going into like some dances at like the high school level, that kind of season, like a prom season, maybe they'll start selling, but I have not been selling them and I don't know why. So it's a little frustrating, but that's another brand that I have to be a little bit more conservative with and only pick it up if it's a really good style, maybe a maxi length, sequin, something that has like something special about it, or new with tags, because I'm not going to keep on sitting on all these Lulus dresses. You know what I mean? Same thing with number 10, Eliza J. I have loved picking up Eliza J in the past, but I was looking through my solds the other day. I typed in Eliza J and saw what I have sold, and I have not sold very much. I have so much Eliza J listed and only like 3 sold. So that's not good. You don't want that. So until I sell more of Eliza J pieces, and a lot of the pieces I have are new with tags or they have something special about them, but until I sell more of them, I cannot keep picking these up. I can't just be sitting on all of this, you know, dress inventory. Those are kind of bigger items because there's more fabric. So that's another brand that, you know, is a little shocking, but I'm going to be trying to, you know, be more selective with for sure. Number 11 is Fabletics. And this is one of those brands that I just cannot get behind it. They are churning out these like collections from Fabletics so quickly that no one can keep up, but also even the thrift stores can't keep up. I have literally seen so much Fabletics in the bins. I've seen so much Fabletics at regular Goodwill stores. Like, it's becoming a problem quickly. And so this is not really something I want to support. And I would be hard pressed to find a Fabletics piece nowadays that I would want to pick up. Almost always I say no, unless maybe I found like a new tags jacket or something, a coat. Even then, I don't know. It depends on the price, of course, but like Fabletics is, yeah, I don't think I have a single piece in my closet right now that I am selling. So, yep. Number 12, Aerie. Aerie is another one of those brands that I personally really liked before I got into reselling. And maybe I'll pick up an Aerie piece here and there for myself, maybe to wear like as a pajama, but like on the whole, Aerie has not been reselling for very much. And so even in the bins, I often leave it behind unless it's my size and I'm wearing it, you know, but like on the whole, it's just not worth it for reselling. Brand number 13 is another one very similar to Eliza J in that I have quite a few of these pieces in my closet. I've hauled a lot of this brand, but as I went through and did the research, I realized that I have a lot listed, but not a lot have sold, and that is Soft Surroundings, which is shocking to me. I have some new tags pieces in my closet. I have some really nice pieces, but I don't know why some of them aren't selling. I did sell a piece like this week, so like some of it will sell, but also I've had that piece for over a year. So definitely not a quick turnaround, that's for sure. But the other thing too to say about Soft Surroundings and just all these brands in general is the things that are more timeless are going to be better sellers, generally speaking, overall. If you are finding things that are quality fabrics, that's going to be very important, even over brands at times. And that if you're finding things that are linen and flax and wool and cashmere and like really well-made fabrics, that's going to be what you really want to focus in on, because trends will fade, but the quality of the fabric doesn't really change. And so if you want to have really nice items in your closet, I think one of the biggest things that you can pay attention to is fabric. And so that's where there's going to be exceptions to even these brands, is that if you find a nice like Soft Surroundings 100% wool piece, I would definitely pick that up, because the wool really for me will transcend that brand. Cashmere as well, things like that, flax, linen. So I want to make sure that I say that as well, because that is really what a lot of what I pick up, especially if it's not by brands. If I'm in the bins and I find something vintage, but it's 100% cashmere, that's going to definitely sway me over what the brand is. Okay, with all that being said, number 14 is Allbirds, which I have loved Allbirds. I have a couple pairs of Allbirds myself. I haven't worn them in a while, and I've been finding more and more Allbirds at regular Goodwills, but they're usually pretty expensive. And so for $10, I cannot pick a pair of Allbirds up to resell. But maybe if I was in the bins, I would still pick them up. I have a few pairs in my closet still listed that haven't been moving. But also if there's an Allbirds and it's a collab with, you know, a specific brand or things like that, I find that those still have done well for me. But until I sell more of my Allbirds, I cannot be picking those up. And also the Allbirds like trend has just kind of dropped off, and people that were raving about them are now moving on to another kind of shoe. Maybe it's a Hoka, who knows. But yeah, so Allbirds is definitely one I've got to be more selective with and probably not be picking up unless it's very cheap in the future. Number 15 is Fela. And when I first started reselling, I would pick up some pieces from Fela in the bins. I still have those pieces. It's been like 4 years and they do not move, for me at least. At least not for a good enough amount for me to be sitting with them in my inventory 4 years. So Fela is one I'm avoiding like the plague. Like I'm not even probably picking up any exceptions to the rule, and unless it's new with tags, maybe. I don't know. But on the whole, Fela, it's not it for me this year, that's for sure. Number 16, very similar to Hudson Jeans, is Paige Jeans. And I have picked up Paige Jeans in the past, and Paige Jeans have sold well for me in the past, but I have not sold a pair of Paige Jeans in a hot minute, and the ones that I have sold, I've had to heavily discount to move. And so I think the last pair I sold for $24 or something like that. And for me, especially if I'm paying $5 in my cost of goods, I'm only making like $10 at the end of the day. And for me, I could literally go and pick up so many better things probably in the bins and not spend money I wouldn't want to spend up to be buying the Paige Jeans. So those are a pass for me. Number 17, a little interesting, Adidas, which I have sold quite a bit of Adidas, but unless it's a collab piece or, you know, a vintage piece, I've been passing on a lot of Adidas lately. I do prefer Nike to Adidas personally, but I do think that Adidas on the whole just has been kind of falling off in the trends, although I do have to say that some Adidas shoes are really, the shoes category here is going to be probably more of the exception to the rule. If they have a cool pair of shoes, I'm not above spending some good money for those, but on the whole, the clothing, I would say, it's not like super, it's not as cool in my opinion. And I feel like this is just the thought throughout our culture right now, is that it's not that cool to be seen wearing a giant Adidas logo on your shirt as it is to be wearing a giant Nike logo. So maybe that's just me, but Adidas definitely slowing down. And then comment down below if you remember when I was in this era. Number 18 is Victoria's Secret and Victoria's Secret Pink. I went through a whole stage in my reselling career where I went to the bins all the time and I would pick up like 20 Victoria's Secret Pink sweatshirts at once. Like, it was not a bins haul unless I was picking up some Victoria's Secret Pink. I don't know why. It was selling for me so well then. This was a couple years ago. Now I can't move it to save my life, and I will not pick up any Victoria's Secret or Victoria's Secret Pink. I was at the bins today, as I mentioned. I saw so much of it there and I said no, because I have had bad experience lately trying to move it. It's just not moving for me. So learning from what's moving now is so important, because obviously things change with time, trends change, the climate of the fashion world changes, and if we don't adapt to it as resellers, then you are honestly going to be left behind. So that is what I feel about Victoria's Secret Pink. Number 19 is Spider with a Y. This is a nice active and outdoor kind of brand. But man, I have not moved a Spider piece in a long time. And I have been sitting on pieces for years. And every time I see one, especially when I see it new with tags, I'm always tempted to pick it up. But y'all, it's just, for me at least, it's not worth it. It's not moving. It's not paying for itself. So I've got to be letting it go. And then the last brand on the list, number 20, is Calvin Klein. And Calvin Klein is not necessarily a bad brand either. Again, I was just looking through my closets, my stores, and seeing what I have listed versus what I've sold. And Calvin Klein is another one where I've had pieces listed for years and they're just not selling. I also have quite a few pieces, and I also haven't sold that many from Calvin Klein, even though I'm tempted to pick it up quite often, especially when it's new with tags. And again, there are exceptions for sure. I've sold some good Calvin Klein like coats before, but on the whole, those pieces are just taking up space in my inventory. And also, Calvin Klein is one of those pieces that's sold like at TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And as I said before, a lot of brands that are sold there at TJ Maxx and Marshalls, I feel like are really on the decline right now. And so I would just be aware of that too as you're shopping, especially if you're doing retail arbitrage and you're paying up for things. Like, you've got to be careful for sure. So those are the 20 brands. Those are the 20 brands I'm going to be avoiding and trying not to resell in 2024. So I hope that was helpful to you guys. I definitely think it's really helpful, not just to listen to what brands I'm going to be avoiding, but to take a look at your reselling business and take a look and see what things you're listed versus what you've sold from the same brands. See if those brands are working for you. And if they're not, you need to reassess and try to steer yourself in a new direction. And maybe it isn't avoiding specific brands, but maybe it's just picking up more volume in order to combat what brands aren't selling for you. There's so many different ways to approach reselling, and so there's not one correct way. Do not take this video as me saying, this brand sucks, you can't resell it if you want to be a reseller. That is not the purpose of the video. I hope you're hearing me in that. But this is to share kind of some of the brands that I have found are not doing well for me and what I'm doing to address those concerns. So hopefully it's helpful. Let me know down below if you're having trouble with any specific brand or what brands you've assessed and think that you should not be reselling in 2024. I love it when we share information, when we share what's going on and we help each other grow. I think that's the heart of what we're doing really here, especially on my channel here on YouTube. So let me know in the comments. Also, if you guys want to support me, the best and easiest free way to do it is to give today's video a thumbs up and also hit the subscribe button. So make sure you do those two things before you leave. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And until the next video, bye.